we are going to
This looks like it. Yeah, that's it.
Good morning, everyone.
Honorable
Honorable Mr. Justice Brian Sykes, Chief Justice of Jamaica, the Honorable Mr. Justice Patrick Brooks, President of the Court of Appeal, my colleagues, judges of the Court of Appeal, the Honorable Mrs. Justice Zayla McCullough, retired Chief Justice, who I'm told is on Zoom. The Honorable Mr. Justice Seymour Panton, retired President of the Court of Appeal, who is present with us in person. The Honorable Minister Marlene Malahoo Fort, the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, representing the Honorable Mr. Ian Ford, retired President of the Court of Appeal. The retired judges of the Court of Appeal, especially those who sat here with the President Brooks. So I will highlight in particular Justices Algernon Smith, Norma McIntosh, Hillary Phillips, who is here with me. I received an apology from Justice Harrison, that's Carl Harrison, who is not able to attend this morning. Senator Donna Scott Motley. And did I say, sorry, Justice Hillary Phillips? How could I have forgotten her? The most special. You said it. I said it. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Senator Donna Scott Motley, representing the Southern Bar. I'm not seeing her yet, but she's expected to be here in person. Retired judges of the Supreme Court. And I think I slip over. You have to see with me this morning. It's a long list, and I'm calling everybody's name. Mr. Derek McCoy, King's Counsel, the Attorney General of Jamaica. His Honor, Mr. Chester Crooks. The judges of the Supreme Court, Masters in Chambers of the Supreme Court, retired judges of the Supreme Court. His Honor, Mr. Chester Crooks, Chief Judge of the Parish Court. The senior parish court judges, the Honorable, Miss Claudette Thompson, the acting director of public prosecutions, Mr. Patrick Foster, King's Counsel, and he's here representing the former chambers of the President, that's Nunez, Coldfield, Dillon and Company. Mrs. Denise Kitson, King's Counsel, Chairman of the General Legal Counsel. Mr. Maurice Manning, King's Counsel, also from the former chambers of the President. We have a lot of them. Mr. Gordon Robinson of Counsel, and we have him here because he's a close friend of the President. Ms. Lisa White, Deputy Solicitor General. Mr. Malik Kellier, Vice President of the Jamaican Bar Association. Mr. Leonard Green, President of the Advocates Association. Mr. Michael Hemmings, President of the Cornwall Bar Association. I think he is on Zoom. Mr. Michael Jordan, representing the Northern Jamaica Law Society, and that is in place of Ms. Pearline Bailey. Registrars and staff of the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. Mrs. Winsome Brooks, the dear wife of the President and the rest of the family. And before I go on, I think I omitted Madam Sandra Minot Phillips, King's Counsel of the Chambers of Myers, Fletcher and Gordon. And I think elsewhere she's a justice, and it's our pleasure having you here. Back to my long list because I insisted on calling everybody's name. So, did I say the President's family? I'm sure I did. And his close friend, who we know, Mrs. Ford. Miss Ford, former librarian and editor of many of our judgments of the Supreme Court, that is. We have members of the Court Users Committee. I won't stop to call all the names, but we welcome them. And Mrs. Cameron Anglin, Tricia Cameron Anglin, the director of the Court Administration Division. She's not left for last, but because she's so important, I want her name to sound in their ears as the last person, almost. And distinguished ladies and gentlemen here in person and on the virtual platforms. And if we have any member of the media here, we welcome them. Seems as if I've covered everyone. And of course, all the other persons who might not have been specially invited, but it's because we do not have the space to accommodate you. And if you're there in YouTube land, we welcome you to this sitting. As Justice Brooks would say, and I'm taking this from him, so if I'm wrong, blame him. Having established this protocol, I hope that all the speakers will feel, and I put in sufficiently comfortable to adopt it in the interest of time. I know you might not agree with the order, but we'll do better next time. I'm Justice of Appeal Marva McDonald Bishop, and I am the self-appointed presiding judge for these proceedings. Nobody appointed me. Kindly mute your mics and turn off your cellular phones. But this is only possible because of my standing as the most senior judge of appeal after the president. This is an enviable position, I'm sure, to be in, and one that has brought me a bit of joy to my otherwise sad heart. I find some happiness from the thought that for the first time, the President of the Court of Appeal will have to yield to me while sitting in this court. He will only be allowed to speak when I permit him to do so. The same applies to the Honorable Chief Justice, and you know what that means. He will not be at liberty to speak without my permission. Can you imagine that, counsel? So the lawyers will be happy to know that he will not be in a position to disrupt your submissions today. For the first time, too, persons appearing before this court will be able to speak without interruption from the bench, especially from me and Justice Edwards to my left. Of course, that will be so as long as they adhere to the allotted time of 5 minutes. Those are for the speaker. So, it is indeed my pleasure to be here in this August gathering. To my right is the man of the moment whose birthday is today, and incidentally, and sadly, incidentally, he'll be leaving us after today. So we have gathered here to not say we are saying farewell or goodbye. So I'd ask, let there be no sadness, although it is difficult. Let us see it as a day to celebrate what he will leave with us as a lasting legacy of an erudite, brilliant, dynamic, transformational leader of this court. With me, of course, you'll see the judges behind me and beside me, and the Chief Justice is properly here today, legitimately. You're invited? You see? I have to ensure he has been invited by the president because I don't want to violate the Constitution of Jamaica. And if you count, we have more judges than the Constitution allows, but we have 2 judges who are on vacation leave, but they could not stay away. So I allow them to come, and there are 2 judges who are acting for them, and we couldn't ask them not to come. So bear with us. We are the guardians of the Constitution, so we declare it not to be breached by the number of judges. It is with intense mixed feelings that we, the members of the court, are bidding our farewell to a fine jurist. On the bright side, we are delighted that he'll get a chance to get some well-deserved rest and to relax with the family, especially his beloved wife, Winsome, and grandson, Benjamin, who will be hearing a lot about. On the darker side, we do not want to see him go. We wish he could be here for much longer, but we know all good things must come to an end. He has been a transformational force in this court. He has been behind the implementation of the strategic plan of the judiciary. He has built on the solid foundation laid by his predecessors and has managed to leave behind a court of which we're all proud, just as he said he would have done on the day he was sworn in as president. And we applaud him. We applaud him loudly, and we applaud him in a long way for all that he has done for this court, which will be evident to all who come here. He has built a family which is loved, and we share love at the Court of Appeal. So today, please join me in celebrating a career well spent, a leadership well executed, and a man who does not deserve to leave the Court of Appeal. But I have to be fair, as I'm known to be. And so without further ado, after now, you'll not hear much from me, and I know you'll be happy about that. I will now invite the Honorable Chief Justice to prepare himself to speak. I know it'll take time for that. And now we're ready for you. The Honorable Mr. Justice Brian Sykes, Order of Jamaica, Commander of the Order of Distinction, our brilliant Chief Justice of Jamaica.
Thank you very much, Justice MacDonald. Bishop, I will adopt the protocol, observe and just say good morning all. So we are gathered in this esteemed court to celebrate the career and retirement of an exceptional jurist, a distinguished leader, a dedicated public servant, and a great and dear colleague, the President of the Court of Appeal, the Honorable Mr. Justice Patrick Brooks, OJ-CD. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to pay tribute to a man whose dedication to justice has profoundly shaped Jamaica's legal landscape. His association with the law began as a temporary assistant clerk at the then resident Magistrates Court, Kingston Criminal Division, shortly after completing 7 years at that famous North Street institution, St. George's College. At that time, the parishes of Kingston and St. Andrew had their own separate and distinct criminal and civil courts. So that court was at Sutton Street at the time. He resigned roughly a year later to pursue the study of law at the University of the West Indies and also at the Norman Manley Law School. He returned to the public service in 1979 as an attorney at law, where he was employed, yes, as a deputy clerk of court in the resident magistrates court, again in the parish of Kingston. Then in between that and coming to the DPP's office, I think I was informed that he was also for a time at the gun court when it was at Camp Road. He later joined the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions in 1981 as an assistant Crown Counsel, appointed Crown Counsel in January of 1982. He then left the public service and for a short time, he was the legal officer at the Jamaica Public Service Company before joining the distinguished firm of Nunez, Schofield, and DeLeon in 1986, and he was there until 2002, when he became a puisne judge in the Supreme Court. The preparation for the bench came in this manner. He was exposed to the criminal law during his prosecutorial career, and while at the firm of Nunez Schofield, he engaged in civil litigation, family law, conveyancing, probate, and the administration of estates and general legal practice. Now, he came to the court, as we said, in September 2002, and while at the court, he was known for his punctuality, high operating standards, and meticulous nature. He would arrive just outside the court 5 to 10 minutes before the start of the day's session and was determined to start on time regardless of who was present. His approach to the administration of justice while he presided set high standards for everyone who was assigned to work in that court. It came as no surprise when he was elevated to the Court of Appeal as a judge of appeal, and by that time, and even before, he had proven himself to be what we now speak of as performance qualified. He led by example, and while he was at the Supreme Court, there are three factors that led to him being appointed the first judge in the commercial division that was established by the then Chief Justice, Mrs. Justice Zayla McCullough. His ability to produce judgments of high quality in a short time frame, reliability, and critically his punctuality. Those were the three defining characteristics which made him the judge that he was in the Supreme Court, and he took those characteristics to the Court of Appeal when he arrived here in 2012. And those characteristics remained with him when he became the president of the Court of Appeal in December 2020. So we are now in 2024, 3.5 years. And some may say it's a short time. But when you look at the things that he has achieved in that time, he has achieved a lot in the time that he was here. I would say that Justice Brooks is the first of what we can now say are modern court leaders. He fully embraced the idea that courts are legal service providers which should be efficient, courteous, and full participants in the cycle of what we now call continuous improvement. His leadership of the court reflected the principles of results-based management, namely planning, monitoring, learning, evaluating in order to achieve measurable, objective results. The productivity of the court increased significantly under his leadership, where for the first time, as far as available, and of course, yes, I have to refer to the data. As far as available data are concerned, the court moved from disposing of 85 cases for every 100 cases coming in to 111, and last year 117 cases being disposed of for every 100 cases coming in. And so what that means in ordinary language is that the court is on its way to becoming backlog-free and current with its caseload. He has turned the court into a more efficient institution, which is contributing to national development and the rule of law by bringing disputes to an early, high-quality end. And I must pause here to address the idea that some still have that there is an incompatibility in courts measuring performance and insisting on time standards and the judiciary being accountable on the one hand, and the thought seems to be that the quality of decisions will suffer. Well, under the leadership of Justice Brooks, he has effectively disposed of that idea, and there is no reason to think that greater efficiency cannot live harmoniously with high-quality decisions. As our statistician, Dr. Dennis, pointed out, there is no empirical evidence to suggest that efficient courts ignore due process and the quality of justice is impaired. President Brooks's core values served him well. You will recall that he was appointed in December 2020, and that was during the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. Under his leadership, the court had to adjust quickly to accommodate the instructions from the Ministry of Health as to how to manage the sitting of the court in those difficult times. And one of the striking features there is that the productivity of the court actually increased even during those difficult periods. And so his steady hand, his calm assurance guided the court as it negotiated this very difficult period in its history. Even the most careless observer would have noticed the significantly shortened time between the hearing and disposing of appeals, which has now become the norm of the Court of Appeal. And many persons would have also noticed that many decisions are generally issued, or most of them within 3 to 6 months of the arguments being concluded. So how did he manage to achieve this increased productivity and maintaining what I would say the increasing quality of justice by reducing wait times? He built upon the stakeholder group that was established by Justice Dennis Morrison, and he enabled structures to be developed within the court that continued the path of excellence. Several committees were established: the Social Affairs Committee, the Health and Safety Committee, the ICT Improvement Committee, the Budget Committee, the Rewards and Recognition Committee, and the Digital Transformation Work Group, which oversaw the development and continuing development of e-filing. And just to say that it is almost there, and persons are being resensitized, and it's to commence fully in September of this year. Now, Justice Brooks is not what is commonly known as a charismatic leader, but he leads by example and by dedication and a strong work ethic. He has made significant contribution to the judiciary, not just as a judge, but the orientation that we now have at the Supreme Court, which is now 2 weeks long, and we're going to a third week before judges sit and preside in court. He was asked by the then Chief Justice, Justice McCullough, to begin a program of orientation for new judges to the Supreme Court, which he began on Saturday mornings. And so what began as a 3 to 4 hour session on a Saturday morning has now become 2 weeks, and he has been an integral part of that. Beyond his legal acumen, he is known as a mentor, friend, and guide to many within the judiciary. He has demonstrated a commendable commitment to nurturing the next generation of judges and lawyers. And through his guidance, many have learned the importance of diligence, ethics, and the pursuit of excellence. His influence will continue to resonate through the many lives he has touched. Now, when we speak of judges, we tend to speak of them almost exclusively as adjudicators. But as modern court leaders, there is another aspect to being an effective leader of a court or a legal system, and that is on the administrative side of the court. And that aspect of Justice Brooks needs to be recorded so that future generations, when we see the improvements of the court as time goes on, will have an understanding of the source of it. So we had developed the judiciary a tier 1 plan for the entire judiciary. And under his leadership, the Court of Appeal developed its tier 2 strategic business plan. And within that strategic business plan for the Court of Appeal, the various committees were established that I had mentioned previously, and that in turn led to the increase in productivity. So under his leadership then, what we see is both need to be balanced, both as a judicial officer and also as an administrator. I have had the pleasure of sitting with him in other capacities. He's an ex officio member of the advisory board to the Court Administration Division, which was established under the Judicature Supreme Court Act in 2016. His last meeting was last Friday. He's also a member of the Judiciary's Emergency Preparedness Team, which oversees the preparedness of the judiciary to meet the challenges that can arise when natural disasters such as a hurricane approaches our shores. He's also a member of the committee that considers counsel for elevation to the rank of King's Counsel. He's also a member of the Judicial Services Commission that selects judges for all levels of courts. And what has come through in all of that is his thoughtfulness, humility, gentleness, and a high commitment to principles and fidelity to integrity. And those characteristics have been his defining mark throughout the 45 years in the law. So permit me a personal observation. Justice Brooks has been vocal both privately and publicly in support of me and what we are trying to do within the judiciary, and he has fully embraced the need for improvement and accountability. And I wish to thank him publicly for the support that he has given, the advice that he has tendered to me, and at times saving me from myself. So I wish to thank him for that. And today, Justice Brooks, as you embark on a new chapter of your life, we reflect on your remarkable contributions with deep gratitude and respect. Retirement is a time to reflect, to enjoy the fruits of your labor, and to embark on new ventures. And may this time be filled with happiness, good health, and the satisfaction of knowing that you have made a significant and lasting contribution to Jamaica. On behalf of the judiciary, I extend our heartfelt appreciation for your service, your leadership, your unwavering dedication to the cause of justice. And may your retirement be filled with joy and satisfaction, knowing that you have served your country and the cause of justice with distinction and honor. And I would be remiss if I did not thank his wife and 2 children who have been strong supporters in enabling him to do the things that he has done. So on behalf of the judiciary, I wish to thank Winsome and the 2 children. Thank you very much. Thank you, Justice Bishop.
Thank you, Chief Justice. All left for us to say is we concur, and there'll be no appeal from counsel. You can understand why the Chief Justice has to be invited to the Court of Appeal.
Sorry, there's just one more thing. I have to carry out the instructions that I was given, and I have to ensure that it is done on camera so that there is actually a documented or recorded proof of it. So I'm going to invite the President to stand, and I'm going to present to him the citation there from His Excellency Sir Patrick Allen, who has requested that it be presented to the President of the Court of Appeal on his retirement.
You can stand. I think so. I have it for you. I've asked it for it.
So this is the citation from His Excellency, the Most Honorable Sir Patrick Allen, ONGCNG-CD, Knight of the Venerable Order of St. John, Governor General of Jamaica. And this is presented to you, the Honorable Mr. Justice Patrick Anthony Brooks, OJCD, President of the Court of Appeal, on the day of his retirement.
Thank you. I think we can clap, yes. You may be seated. And on behalf of the court, I must thank His Excellency, the Most Honorable Sir Patrick Allen, for gracing us with that fabulous citation. It saves me the trouble of having to read it this morning because we had received it. So we thank him wholeheartedly. It does add a touch of excellence from His Excellency to the court. At this time, we had given the head of the judiciary the opportunity to speak first. So we defer the tribute from this court because we just want you to relax, sit back, and hear what the court has to say to our departing president. Did I say thank you, Chief Justice? I'm sure I did. Yes. It is a recorded tribute.
Madam Acting President of the Court of Appeal, the Honorable Madam Justice Marva MacDonald Bishop, judges of the Court of Appeal, Registrar of the Court of Appeal, fellow judges, ladies and gentlemen, good day to you all. There are some persons you meet for the first time, and after the briefest period of time, you feel bold enough to make a full assessment of their character and even of their professionalism. Sometimes you do so, and you later realize that you were dead wrong. But then there are times when your initial assessment that this is a person whom you like, who you respect, is confirmed and reconfirmed again and again with every subsequent interaction.
Madam Jared Fletcher, I'm sorry, there seems to be a little issue here. We'll allow the President of the Caribbean Court of Justice to speak. He saw it fit to come in before we were ready, although it is recorded. But I think he deserves his place after the Chief Justice. So please proceed to play that tribute. And then the next one could be from the court. Thank you. I did not announce him. I wasn't expecting him, but this is the Honorable Mr. Justice Adrian Saunders, who has been kind enough. He's not able to attend in person or virtually because he's traveling, but he said he could not miss the occasion to say farewell to his friend and Caribbean jurist, colleague, Caribbean jurist. So what I'm going with it again.
Madam Acting President of the Court of Appeal, the Honorable Madam Justice Marva MacDonald Bishop, judges of the Court of Appeal, Registrar of the Court of Appeal, fellow judges, ladies and gentlemen, good day to you all. There are some persons you meet for the first time, and after the briefest period of time, you feel bold enough to make a full assessment of their character and even of their professionalism. Sometimes you do so, and you later realize that you were dead wrong. But then there are times when your initial assessment that this is a person whom you like, who you respect, is confirmed and reconfirmed again and again with every subsequent interaction you have with them. That has been my experience with the Honorable Mr. Justice Patrick Brooks. From the first time I met him, it struck me that he was a good, honest, decent gentleman, soft-spoken, but committed to firm principles. Someone who treats their professional duties with the same devotion as they treat their domestic and family responsibilities. The more I learned about Justice Brooks and the better I got to know him, the clearer it appeared to me that he was indeed simply a wonderful human being and an excellent judge. There's great value in having such a person as president of your appellate court, because the Court of Appeal is a collegial court. It is most effective when its members get along, when their inevitable differences in points of view can be freely expressed with utmost conviction, but without rancor, when each member listens patiently and with respect to each other's point of view, and when everyone is humble enough to recognize and be persuaded by a different view. A Court of Appeal is truly blessed when its president leads in displaying these important qualities. The Court of Appeal of Jamaica has been so blessed. As I fully anticipated, throughout his professional career, Justice Brooks has always demonstrated a capacity for diligent hard work. He set a fine example in completing his judgments in a timely manner. He pays keen attention to available precedents. Go through his judgments, as I did a few recently, and you will find that they are all written in an easy, lucid manner. There's no fluff, no legalese. The sentences are short and crisp. The disputed areas are clearly identified and meticulously addressed in a manner that renders the judgment accessible to persons of all walks of life. He does something in them for which I have the greatest admiration. He refers to the parties by their names. He deliberately eschews the sometimes confusing and unnecessary titles lawyers love to give them: plaintiff, defendant, defendant, applicant, third defendant, respondent, claimant, and so forth. Justice Brooks's impressive body of judgments has made a solid contribution to Caribbean jurisprudence. Jamaica's judiciary and the bar will, I have no doubt, miss his presence on the Court of Appeal. The end of this long and productive chapter in your life, Patrick, signals the start of another. I simply want to wish you and your dear wife, Winsome, and your family all the very best as you proceed on retirement from the Court of Appeal. In addition to enjoying life at a more relaxed pace, I sincerely hope that you take advantage of opportunities that might allow you to continue contributing to the legal and judicial life of Jamaica and the Caribbean. I thank you for your service to the Caribbean, and I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank President Saunders, wherever you are. Where's that coming from? Is that from our room? Huh? Okay, thank you very much. It's only fitting now that we turn to the tribute from this court. I don't want to get the persons too tired to listen to us, and I have not said anything yet, because all that I have to say is in the tribute. So, Court of Appeals tribute.
Slim, steady, studious, sharp, stellar. These descriptive characteristics provide a window into the life and career of the Honorable Mr. Justice Patrick Anthony Brooks. We honor and celebrate him today. The scion of Oswald Brooks, who owned Continental Auto Parts, and Carmen Brooks, who for many years was matron at the National Chest Hospital. Mr. Justice Brooks grew up in a close-knit, supportive family with his parents and brothers Howard and Peter. His parents instilled in him the qualities of discipline, a healthy work ethic, living a principled life, and the willingness to go the extra mile to help others. At the primary school level, he attended St. Teresa's Preparatory School and then St. Aloysius Boys' School on Duke Street. He remained in Kingston for his secondary level education. A proud alumnus of St. George's College, whose light blue colors he adores to this day. He always wanted to read law. However, being unable to immediately matriculate into the Faculty of Law upon leaving high school, he contemplated pursuing mechanical engineering, given his love for cars. That avenue also did not materialize. Instead, through his mother's instrumentality, he was posted at the Sutton Street Resident Magistrates Court, now Parish Court, as an assistant clerk of the courts. Finding that he liked the practice of law fueled the desire to pursue his legal qualifications. He first did a year in the Faculty of Arts and General Studies and then applied to the Faculty of Law. He was admitted late and had to go directly to Barbados, where he did all 3 years of the Bachelor of Laws degree. President Brooks blossomed as a university student. He participated in student government by becoming hall treasurer. He played as a resolute defender, representing the Cave Hill campus in football at the inter-campus games held at the St. Augustine campus in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. After completing his law degree, it was on to the Norman Manley Law School in pursuit of his legal education certificate. He was part of the 5th batch of Norman Manley Law School graduates, graduating in 1979. On his graduation from the law school, he returned to the Sutton Street Resident Magistrates Court, where he was assigned as a deputy clerk of the courts. The hand of Providence continued to guide his professional life. While working at the Manchester Resident Magistrates Court, unbeknownst to him, his resident magistrate recommended him for promotion to the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, ODPP, where he commenced working sometime in mid-1980. The then Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, was Ian Fort, QC, who later became President of the Court of Appeal. Among his mentors at the ODPP was Howard Cook, later Supreme Court Judge and a Judge of Appeal. From him, President Brooks, now Crown Counsel, learned case preparation and adopted aspects of the way he gave his opening address to the jury. After spending about 3 years at the ODPP, a surge of energy and the bright light of new opportunities led him to become a legal officer at the Jamaica Public Service Company. There, for another 3 years, he was charged with useful commercial law experience. President Brooks' transition to private practice was almost serendipitous. A seemingly chance meeting with his law school classmate, Jeffrey Mordecai, led to an interview with Nunez, Schofield, DeLeon & Co., and he was invited to join the firm. At the time, the partners were Jeffrey Mordecai and Gordon Robinson, renowned senior counsel and Gleaner columnists. President Brooks was the only associate. His start date was particularly auspicious, being 17th of March 1986, St. Patrick's Day. That propitious start quickly delivered great things, which led to his being accepted into partnership 9 months later. Having started out in litigation, he later engaged in different specializations. He took over the succession portfolio, which involved conveyancing, when Arthur Schofield left the firm. He enjoyed the camaraderie at Nunes, commenting that it was a great place to work. He, however, over time decided to make a transition from the pressuring environment of meeting targets to one of timely production of judgments, and so commenced his career in the judiciary, a long-held aspiration. Before recalling Brooks's storied judicial career, the apotheosis of his professional life, 2 experiences which stand out in his mind from his days as counsel are worthy of note. A high point of his prosecuting career was the case of the Queen against Willard Collins for murder. In cross-examining the accused, his parting shot was, and I quote, "You know this nursery rhyme, speak the truth and speak it ever, cost it what it will, finish it." End quote. Later, during his closing address, so enraptured, so spellbound was the jury that when he said, and I quote, "There was blood there, there was blood there, and there was," a member of the jury chimed in, "Blood there." When the matter went on appeal, then President of the Court of Appeal, the Honorable Mr. Justice Ira Rowe, commended him on the way the case was marshaled. On the civil side, he recalls appearing for an insurance company that was defending a suit brought on behalf of the insured. Mr. Stephen Shelton, now King's Counsel, was on the other side. Through studious research, President Brooks found the answer to the matter in Halsbury's laws. When the case came up before the master and the authority was produced, the shock on Mr. Shelton's face was evident. It appears he thought a win was sure. That memory still brings with it a glow of satisfaction. President Brooks remembers that when he first joined the bench of the Supreme Court, he was amazed at how little information was available to guide new appointees. That led to him writing a small booklet entitled On Becoming a Judge, to assist new judges with practical information essential for a smooth transition into judicial office. When he was promoted, he penned the booklet, I'm Appealing, to address a similar void in information at the Court of Appeal. Since becoming available, these booklets have demystified and eased the transition to the bench of new judicial officers. They now form a vital part of the judicial orientation package. President Brooks's contribution to the development of the Jamaican judiciary does not stop there. He presented several papers to the members of the upper judiciary at numerous training seminars and workshops. It is no surprise that President Brooks's deep desire to enrich the judicial education of the Jamaican judiciary found further expression in his substantial contribution to the creation of the historic Supreme Court of Judicature of Jamaica Criminal Bench Book in 2017 as chairman of the Bench Book Committee. It is fitting that the judge's judge was a member of the Judicial Conduct Guidelines Committee that had responsibility for the drafting and promulgation of the Judicial Code of Conduct. President Brooks has epitomized and demonstrated the attributes of a sound judge. While supremely effective at the Supreme Court, his impact at the Court of Appeal, inspired by his mentor, the late President, the Honorable Mr. Justice Dennis Morrison, retired, is nothing short of monumental. His seminal contribution as an appellate judge will always gild the legacy of our court. Always well prepared, firm but courteous, practical and results-oriented, possessed of an attractive yet economical writing style, timely, and prodigious in his delivery of decisions. These characteristics earned President Brooks encomiums from the Cayman Islands Court of Appeal, which described his judgment in Cavina Ellis against the Queen as detailed and comprehensive, clear and impressive, and found his reasoning to be faultless. Those words of praise were articulated when President Brooks served as a temporary judge of the Grand Court of the Cayman Islands from 2014 to 2019, mainly in the Criminal Division. President Brooks also received high commendation from Jamaica's Apex Court when, in 2017, in the case of the University of Technology Jamaica against the Industrial Disputes Tribunal and others, the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council described his judgment in this court as impressive. President Brooks agrees with the late Chief Justice, the Honorable Mr. Justice Lensley Wolfe, that being a judge is a vocation. A good judge, President Brooks believes, should be fair, willing to listen, patient, hardworking, and dedicated to duty. All these traits deployed over an outstanding judicial career, a few months short of 22 years, have endeared him to litigants and litigators alike. As president, he has led from the front, both in terms of core work output as well as in advancing the administrative and social well-being of the court's life. President Brooks is focused on the empowering of judges and all levels of staff, a champion of strategic planning along with the Honorable Chief Justice and Chief Judge of the Parish Courts, which has led to record increasing levels of case disposals over the past few years. Such is his concern for the welfare of the Court of Appeal family that he identifies the growth and work of the Social Affairs Committee as his most rewarding experience as president. It is not surprising, therefore, that while he has enjoyed all his places of work along his professional journey, President Brooks considers that his favorite working environment has coincided with the apex of his career. In his words, what we have at the Court of Appeal is special. While his work family is special, his personal family is the joy of his existence. President Brooks has partnered for the last almost 35 years by a winsome, beautiful, supportive, accomplished wife. They share children, Natalie and Nicholas, and now a delightful grandson, Benjamin, the progeny of Natalie and son-in-law, Kevin Green. Benjamin has made President Brooks every bit the doting grandfather. We are thankful to his family, especially his wife Winsome, for her unstinting support, understanding, and acceptance of the required sacrifices visited upon her and the family. That support enabled President Brooks to fashion the exemplary legal and judicial career we now honor. While now a grandfather, President Brooks is the epitome of fitness. His cruising walking speed has been known to have close protection officers, colleagues, and others who try to keep up with him, in a word, struggling. His fitness and all-round athleticism has seen him being a consistent top 3 finisher in his age group in the walking category at the annual Sigma Run, winning on at least one occasion. A multifaceted man, dedicated ushers at St. Peter and Paul Catholic Church, poet, fabulous dancer, someone with service in his blood, literally, as he continues to be one of Jamaica's top blood donors. Our evergreen president has a lot we know he will continue to offer Jamaica, the region, and the world in many spheres of life. The legal profession, the courts, and countless litigants have benefited from his committed stellar service as a servant of the rule of law. President, we will continue to seek your counsel. rely on your knowledge, and draw on your wisdom enhanced through experience whenever we have need and you are available. We wish you a satisfying retirement, many more years of good health, and the realization of your plans and dreams. When asked how he wished to be remembered, his response came in 2 words: as fair. President Brooks, you have been fair. You have been excellent. You will be sorely missed. We wish for you the ongoing fullness of God's choicest blessings.
Being somebody who is seen as fair
Thank.
is
Oh, sorry.
my biggest achievement.
Thank you. Thank you, Audiovisual, for that. To introduce our evergreen, fit president who put all the young men to rest here, or at rest. At this time, I know I do not like to list names. I always get in trouble for doing that. But I must highlight, I'm sure, the presence of Mrs. Janet Morrison. Hoping she's on Zoom. We have specially invited her here because you know what she means to this court, given her connection with her dear, beloved, departed former president. And we had invited her. She could not come in person, but I could not go home without highlighting her presence and to say that we're still with her, and may God continue to comfort her heart and the hearts of the family members. Dr. Lloyd Barnett, also, because if you're not in here, I'm not seeing the faces, so you have to bear with me. But these are specially invited persons from members of the bar and distinguished members of the bar whose presence we do appreciate. We also have Mr. Trevor DeLeon, I'm sure, on Zoom, Mr. Lowell Morgan, and we should have other members from the Nunes family. Ms. Busby Earl, she was invited. I'm not sure if they're there. I cannot see persons. I'm only shooting in the dark with the hope that if you're there, you do not feel left out. I thank you very much. So now, having seen every facet of our president, I will now call upon the Honorable Marlene Malahoo Fort, King's Counsel MP, JP, Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, who is not here in our capacity as a minister because we invited no one at the ministerial level to waste their time. There are more important things to be done after burial. But she's here representing the Honorable Mr. Justice Ian Fort, OJCD, our dearly retired president, and he's and Justice Panton will correct me if I'm wrong, but he's the oldest president who is now alive, I think, and it is. So, Justice Panton says not him. He has always been trying to hide his age. You notice how he looks young, but it's a blessing. And it's a blessing to know that Justice Fort is still alive and with us, but he's unable to attend in person. So we accept his other half, I won't say the better half today, but we accept the Honorable Minister to hear from our dear retired president. Thank you, Madam Minister.
Thank you, my lady. I'm at least pleased that my conjugal connection with the former president has earned me a place. Sitting. And I would ask that you not assume that those of us who have other roles are not interested in hearing what is happening in the court. As I sat and listened to the tributes being paid, I had a better appreciation of the fondness that the former president So, my Lord Chief Justice, my Lord President, former President and Chief Justice, my Lords and Ladies, and my learned friends. The former President Ford recalls that Justice Brooks showed signs of the kind of competence that would result in his elevation to very high office from when he was Crown Counsel in the office of the DPP. Secondly, the role protects the Constitution and democracy. This ultimately judges accountability, not to public opinion, not to politicians, but to the internal morality of democracy. And I have every reason to believe that the future of the judiciary in Jamaica is in good hands. I do believe in the service being provided by our brilliant jurists, and I believe that the court is in good hands. So I wish you well, and I heartily congratulate you. I learned from your success.
Thank you, Madam Minister. If I didn't promise myself, I would not cut off anybody today. I would have taken out my name. I don't like to be a part of the center of attention, but I thank you for your kind words on behalf of Justice Brooks, who cannot speak until I say when, and for your faith in me from Cave Hill those days. I thank you. And my best regards to the Honorable Justice Ford, and we thank him for that wonderful tribute to our president. We now move on to the Honorable Mr. Justice Seymour Panton, Order of Jamaica Commander, the Order of Distinction, retired President of the Court of Appeal, the youngest.
I want to thank the court for the invitation to speak on this occasion. The last time that I addressed the Court of Appeal from a position such as this was in 1972. And so I'm very grateful for this opportunity. I regard it an honor and a privilege to be able to say these few words. I know I will not be interrupted because I'm going to keep within the time. In tribute to you, my very learned brother and friend, and to do so on the anniversary of your birth. You appeared before me as counsel, and later we worked closely together as judges. Now, as counsel, I recall that you practiced what I regard as ABC. That is, you were accurate with the statement of facts, brief in your presentations and submissions, and courteous to bench and bar. Now, having practiced at the public as well as the private bar, you came to the bench a well-rounded and well-grounded individual. As a judge, you quickly distinguished yourself by your capacity for long, hard hours of work in very difficult physical conditions. We must not forget the difficult physical conditions, not because we are now nicely housed. And by your ability to distill issues and principles of law. I was very fortunate to be the president of this court who welcomed you to the Court of Appeal. I don't know if you recall my brother, how reluctant you were at first to leave the Supreme Court because you felt that there were senior colleagues who could have been preferred. We will not go into that. Sufficient to say that your reluctance was brushed aside. And your reluctance demonstrates in some way your consideration for others. However, your reluctance having been overcome, the Court of Appeal has benefited immensely from your presence and from your contribution. In my judgment, and it's a long while since I said those words, in my judgment, you're an excellent example of the type of judge needed at the appellate level. My experience with you was that you never shunned work. You were always willing to sit on a panel scheduled to hear a complex matter. You listened to counsel, you listened to your judicial colleagues, and you were open to persuasion by them, that is your judicial colleagues particularly, and you have even changed your position when you seemed stuck on a point. It was my great pleasure to have sat with you in the determination of some very important appeals, even when we ended up disagreeing. Of course, that was a very rare occasion. And one thing that the Chief Justice has mentioned is that you were very cooperative in meeting deadlines. So the time has come for you to get a little break. My friend, from all your labors these past many years, it is now time for you to rest a while, reflect on your life for a moment, and then launch out on whatever you will feel comfortable doing. And as former President Ford has said, even if the doing is of nothing. However, Jamaica still needs people like you to be active in retirement. And so, whatever you do, allow me to say that you're never to stray from the principles that have guided you so far in being fair, honest, and just, and never abandon your conscience. My brother, remember this: once a judge, always a judge. I wish you and your dear wife Winsome and children and the rest of the family all that is good in your retirement, and may the good Lord continue to bless and keep you. Thank you, Madam, for the opportunity.
You're most welcome, retired President Panton. And we must say you sound much better down there. So we hope next year we see you here in your robe. Thank you. I'll now call upon the Honorable Miss Justice Hilary Phillips, Commander of the Order of Distinction, retired Judge of Appeal and very close friend of Justice Brooks. I would call her one of the formidable three. Justice Dennis Morrison of blessed memory, and Justice Patrick Brooks, and Justice Phillips, the three musketeers.
Madam Presiding, my Lord President, Honorable Chief Justice, Judges of Appeal, Judges of the Supreme Court, former President of the Court of Appeal, all other distinguished persons attending this event, present in court and virtually, I greet you well. I feel honored yet humbled to have been asked to say a few words at this special sitting to wish Justice Brooks, incredible jurist, all good things in his retirement. I met Justice Brooks when I had reached about a dozen years at the bar, and he was just about 7 years, but already a partner in a leading law firm, Newnes Schofield, Dillon & Co. That was the beginning of our recognition of what was to be shared experiences in the law. As my first 5 years in the profession were at that law firm too, where I learned at the feet of that brilliant practitioner, Arthur Schofield. And as it turns out, Justice Brooks and I were engaged in a very sensitive matter, which required our joint creative energies pulling together to obtain a satisfactory resolution. I think I realized from then, as I had a clear vision of the kind of jurist that Justice Brooks was going to be. He was a lawyer with a clear head, very calm temperament, very knowledgeable in the law, aware of the onerous, far-reaching aspects and consequences of matters, yet always able to recognize that mercy has the power to heal and restore relationships. We charted a path to the resolution of the matter, by the way, we're on the same side, and found a way, if not to complete harmony, at least to ultimately preserve some goodwill with respect to our beleaguered opponent. Bearing in mind how he later decided to deploy his obvious talents in the law, I wonder how many of our colleagues know that at that firm, he was known to be an excellent conveyancer. He found the world of real property and the torrent system fascinating. And this was after a stint at the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions, as you have heard, where he imbibed the practice of law in a criminal jurisdiction and later dispensed light from the monopoly of the JPS as their in-house legal counsel. His experience and knowledge in the law were therefore vast, which is just what one should take with you into the Supreme Court bench, where he joined in 2002. Added to the knowledge and experience he had gained as a legal practitioner, as a judge he was known to be punctual to a fault. Excuse me. And he always had a very military bearing, so that when you saw him, you felt like you should click your heels together and salute him. He had a stern visage that at first you felt intimidated and wanted to flee. Then he would smile. And he had such a beautiful, warm, welcoming smile. I'm not sure he realized that, or he might have kept it more hidden, as it was. Then you realized that he was human and maybe even had a soft heart beating somewhere in there. He also developed the skill of listening keenly. He was unfailingly fair, always courteous and extending the hand of mercy. Litigants felt they could trust him, and the lawyers knew the judgment, oral or written, was coming quickly. Right or wrong, you would not have to wait long for it. He has such a succinctly clear way of expressing himself. He's a man of few words, and his judgments were always directly addressing the issues at hand. So Justice Brooks caught the eye of President Panton. And along with Justice Morrison, as he then was, and me, we worked tirelessly to get him onto the appellate bench. We were successful as he was sworn in as a member of the Court of Appeal in January 2012. It was there that we became brother and sister in the law. I joined the court in 2009, 3 years ahead of him, and so I took great pleasure in warmly welcoming him to the court. His chamber was directly opposite mine, and we spent many hours discussing the law, cases, sharing information and research. He was so generous with his knowledge, always endearing to arrive at the right verdict. He was calm, never judgmental. Very soon he became one of the most prolific writers of the court. He was so committed, dedicated, and he just churned out these excellent judgments. Then came the next phase, when he was sitting to my right as I presided. That was fun. He was not so calm then. I had to calm him down. He felt the weight of this being the last court for most litigants, but struggled manfully not to strike out appeals when the recalcitrance of so many professionals was disturbing. I heard him raise his voice, saw him hit his fist on the desk. His frustration was palpable, but mercy always won out. He would think of the litigant and say, it's really not his fault, except maybe exercising poor judgment. While at the Court of Appeal, as expected, Justice Brooks was willing to give of his time and talent to the development of us judges as professionals. As you would have heard, he participated, as I did too, in the creation of the guidelines for judicial conduct for Jamaican judicial officers, and also worked assiduously on the creation of the Supreme Court Jamaica Criminal Bench book. I know he was particularly proud of his work on that. Technology, Jamaica versus in the IDT case. And although they may not have specifically stated that quote impressive judgment, often his judgments are usually upheld given their clarity on the law. In spite, however, of all these accolades, Justice Brooks just continued to do his work, giving assistance to others, articulating the law to the judicial clerks in a way that would easily be understood by them. He was the court's guru, technologically speaking, and that was an area in which he certainly displayed superior expertise, and the rest of us had to try to catch up with him, as it were. And as always, he was a consummate gentleman, directing the way forward in this new global world, but always with mercy. I have heard, and do verily believe, and have personally observed, although with a distance, that as president, you have given sterling leadership, as was expected of you. The court and all who work here have thrived under your guidance. The annual reports have actually recorded the court's efficiency and the effective strategic planning that is taking effect and bearing fruit. Not to mention the new social offense that can only serve to improve the collegiality of all members of the court and ultimately achieve what we all wish for, which is increased productivity. I could not close without mentioning that listening to the comments on the hard-working, techie expert, prolific judgment-writing jurist, excuse me, you may think that he only had a stern and just profile, but you do not know the man until you have seen him. Excuse me. I think it's air conditioning, not just concept. Thank you so much. And I have to say this over. I'll have to start this again. I could not close without mentioning that listening to the comments on the hard-working, techie expert, prolific judgment-writing jurist, you may think that he only had a stern and just profile, but you do not know the man until you have seen him on the dance floor. From the dignified two-step of the ages to old Carolina ska and reggae and dancehall, he's very talented. And he has a good singing voice too. We have heard him at Assizes services and in concerts right here in this building. So there may be several other pursuits that he can be undertaken by him in his life after retirement. His emotional side is also preserved for his family, where his love, commitment, and extraordinary dedication to his wonderful wife, Winsome, children, Natalie and Nicholas, is manifest, and who as a result have him under manners. And now there's a new latest arrival, Benjamin, who has completely got his number, I assure you. You have been an extraordinary jurist, Patrick. You are to be commended, and you will surely be missed by all in this court. In you, the quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as a gentle rain from heaven. And I hope you'll find the time and the opportunity to do more judicial work in the region, where you will not be prohibited by the 70-year age limit. I also take this opportunity to thank you for the beautiful friendship we have shared over these many, many years. Enjoy your retirement, my friend. May the good Lord continue to bless you. May I, my lords, if you permit me, offer some congratulations to Justice McDonald Bishop on this wonderful upcoming appointment. The first female president of the Court of Appeal. We're so proud of you. We know that you will do us proud, well deserved. We wish you all good things. May it please you, my lords.
Thank you, Madam Phillips. I can't remember permitting you to congratulate me, but you took the opportunity, and I thank you. You must congratulate me. I am sitting here, unlike me, patiently listening to counsel without the interrupting. It's not an easy job doing that. But I thank you, Madam, for your kind words on behalf of the President and myself. And I should say that's a member of the Big Pants group. We call the three of them the Big Pants in the court. And I must say that Justice Brooks has earned the name Pretty Boy. pretty boy in the Court of Appeal. Sorry, Winsome. I'm sorry. It's not from me. I heard. Thank you very much. I'll now call upon Mr. Derek McCoy, King's Counsel, the Learned Attorney General, to just say 2 words.
Pleases you, my lady.
I know you look shocked, but
Yes,
we couldn't have you
I was-
here without asking you to just say 2 words.
Yes, if it pleases you, I should confess that the decision was taken at the Attorney General's chambers that I should not be allowed to speak today. The view, majority view, was that my long association with the President and my expression on many occasions of his excellent work would not make me an independent person. May I say I acceded to the majority opinion, not the better opinion, the majority opinion. I do, however, my lady, have a minor brief. I know the court had not invited ministers here in their capacity, but the Minister of Justice was wished, in fact, to have his opinion heard, and has asked me to express his gratitude to the President on his work as a lawyer, and as a judge, and as a member of this court, and his deep appreciation of himself personally and his ministry for the accomplishments that the President has achieved. Unfortunately, I hate saying unfortunately because it's such a big task, but the Solicitor General can't be here today. Her leave begins. I'm told that people have to get leave. I find it difficult, but but I have to accept. And she too would like to join me as we associate ourselves with the ministers' wishes. For my great good fortune, we have the leader of our litigation team in the chambers, who will in fact speak later on,
Yes.
on behalf of the chambers. Thank you very much for the indulgence.
Thank you so much. I know you were not down to speak, but we couldn't have you here without hearing that
Thank you.
nice voice. And we're grateful. We know that, Ms. White, we're not stealing your thunder at all. He didn't do that. And thank the Minister on our behalf as well. He has given us something which will be shared with Justice Brooks in the appropriate forum at the appropriate time. Thank you so much. So now we come down to, I will call upon Ms. Claudette Thompson, the Director of Public Prosecutions acting. I know and I pray your indulgence, King's Counsel, in your bench, but given the office, I see it fit to call upon her at this time. She doesn't have the KC yet, but I'm sure one day soon. One second, please. We have the microphone.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We pause. Well, let me first acknowledge and accept the protocol that has already been established. Good morning, everybody. We pause to celebrate a most distinguished jurist, scholar, gentleman, colleague, and all-round decent human being. The Honorable Mr. Justice Patrick Brooks, OJ, CD, is the epitome of the consummate professional and measure of a man. Might it so please you, my lord, you leave behind a legacy of sound judgments that have helped to elevate the legal jurisprudence emanating from Jamaica and the Caribbean. Any advocate who has had the pleasure of appearing before my lordship has benefited immensely from this interaction. It is unbelievable that the time has come that we have to say goodbye to you, sir, in this capacity. One filled with so much energy and gusto, and reference has been made to that. In the execution of your duties, it does not seem that it is time for you to go just yet. I will miss seeing you coming across from the Supreme Court, CPO behind you, hurriedly, as he tries to keep pace with you as you dash or speed walk across King Street. But I know you will bring this same energy to whatever other endeavor you consider in the next chapter of your life. The same energy that you used to steadily guide the operations of our Court of Appeal in fulfilling its mandate of serving all stakeholders with excellence. On behalf of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, we thank you for your service to our nation and extend our very best wishes to you on this, your retirement. I leave with you the extract of the Irish blessing. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, and until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hands. Congratulations and happy retirement. We know one thing is for sure. You can't and will never retire from being an awesome person. May it so please you, my lady.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. That was wonderful, and I appreciate it.
And within the 5 minutes, my lady.
That is it. I was going to say you're on the right path.
Grateful, ma'am.
You obey the orders of the court. We thank the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. And I will now call upon Ms. Lisa White again. We craved indulgence because based on who the King's Counsel represent and their role here today, we just have to interpose. So bear with me. It is our protocol. It's not the standard protocol. Thank you, Ms. White, and she's here on behalf of the Office of the Attorney General in place of the Solicitor General.
Thank you, my lady. I adopt the protocol already established. Good morning, everyone. Erudite, concise, a stickler for the Supreme Court civil procedure rules. Those are some of the characteristics of my Lord President Brooks. Others are sanguine, approachable, someone with whom you can have a conversation. Without a doubt, a judge from whom you learned. When you appeared before the Honorable Mr. Justice Brooks, you were guaranteed a well-reasoned judgment which would give you an appreciable understanding of the law. Testament to this is the fact that the Privy Council affirmed and upheld in the matter of University of Technology Jamaica against IDT and others, the Court of Appeal's judgment in the consolidated appeals of that matter that was adjudicated in this court. And the judgment was written by the Honorable Mr. Justice Brooks. On the day that the Court of Appeal judgment was to be delivered, I waited anxiously. And as the panelists took their seats, the former president of the Court of Appeal, the Honorable Mr. Justice Panton, who is here with us today, indicated that my Lord President had written the judgment and would deliver it. And in his inimitable style, the then president indicated that the reason sounded good. And I hope, Mr. Justice Panton, no retired, I have properly enunciated how you expressed yourself at that time. A former colleague describes my Lord President Brooks as a judge from whom young counsel could learn. And not only did Mr. Justice Brooks contribute to the development of Jamaica's jurisprudence, he displayed his excellence by sometimes writing, then delivering the decision in court. He benefits from a calm demeanor, a calm tone and countenance. Also, he is knowledgeable and excellent, very well experienced, and he has the ability to simplify complex issues. which is well appreciated across the bar. In 2005, I served as a judicial clerk at the Supreme Court, and Justice Brooks was one of the judges to whom I was assigned. He demonstrated patience and showed to a soon-to-be graduate of the Norman Manley Law School that judges are human too. He encouraged me to experience every aspect of the practice, whether or not I would eventually end up in that aspect of the law. He also was not dismissive and allowed me to observe from his chambers the throng of well-wishers who would usually congregate, I believe it's on Temple Lane, holding up wee babes, Lion King style, and shouting out or saluting the accused persons as they transitioned to and from the court via police transport. My Lord President Brooks, on behalf of the Attorney General, the Solicitor General, and all members of the Attorney General's chambers, we salute you as an honorable jurist and an erudite student and teacher of the law. We bless you and pray that the paths that you will now trod will lead you to great adventures, abounding joy, and fulfilled purpose. May it please you, my Lord.
Thank you very much, Miss White. I'm now learning that you worked with the president. I didn't know, but we're happy to have you then in this position today. Thank you so much. Now we will call upon Mrs. Denise Kitson, King's Counsel. I am mindful that Mr. Patrick Foster may be senior, but again, I have established my own protocol for the speeches, depending on the position in which you sit. You are here today.
No objection, my lady.
Thank you very much. So, thank you, Ms. Kitson, the chairman of the General Legal Council.
My lady, my Lord President, my Lord Chief Justice, and all honorable members of this court, the Supreme Court, and the parish courts, and all distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I greet you this morning. These occasions, my Lord, are always bittersweet. For while we celebrate the signal achievements of you, my Lord President, the Honorable Mr. Justice Patrick Brooks, Order of Jamaica, and Commander of the Order of Distinction, we nevertheless so regret that we will no longer have the benefit of your jurisprudential application to matters listed for your consideration. I, too, have had the benefit of interfacing with His Lordship in his various capacities over the years, while he was at the Jamaica Public Service, while he was counsel at Newness Schoolfield Dilion, and, of course, as a judge of the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal. And I cannot recall any time in which I felt disadvantaged, whether even when he didn't rule in accordance with my submissions, but especially when he did. And of course, I have heard about the UTEC judgment, but near and dear to my heart is his judgment in the Trail and Cable and Wireless decision, which the Privy Council also upheld entirely. My lords, my Lord Brooks' commitment is not only to the Constitution and the rule of law, but to his faith, which has informed all his actions, to his family, those immediate and extended, and to West Indies cricket, although they have not been as faithful to his complete commitment to them. But of these, I can speak personally. But I could not, and it would be remiss of me here to not speak of his sterling contribution to the General Legal Counsel. Because Justice Brooks served on that council for many years. And he was not only a vocal contributing member of the council, but he made active and significant input in the Information Technology Committee, on which he was a member, before his elevation to the presidency. His views were always insightful and always acted upon. My lords, my ladies, therefore, on behalf of the General Legal Counsel and on my own behalf, I salute you, my Lord Brooks, and thank you for your unstinting service and wish you well in your retirement.
Thank you, Mrs. Kitson. He cannot speak, so I thank you for that very heartwarming tribute from the General Legal Counsel and on your own behalf. I am now in the King's Counsel suite, so I'll now call upon Mr. Patrick Foster, King's Counsel, who stands here today as the head of chambers of Nunez Schofield. Thank you.
May it please the full court, may it please you, my lady, my Lord President, and my Lord Chief Justice. I believe I'm one of the few attorneys uniquely placed to speak to Justice Brooks as a lawyer from many different perspectives. Back in the 1990s, I believe perhaps even earlier, we had a few matters in court together. Some were amicably resolved, and some were not so amicably resolved. But they were all resolved. I don't believe we ever went to trial in a matter. But I always found his approach to be measured, reasonable, and although he is protective of his client's interest in a negotiating context, he is always fair. Those were the days before mediation, and negotiations between lawyers directly had an important role. And integrity and reasonableness are the lubricants that would make that process flow smoothly. And Justice Brooks, or Patrick Brooks, attorney at law in those days, had those qualities in abundance. We worked together at the same law firm. He left in 2002. I think I arrived in 2008. So there was a gap. But you would not believe that, because when I reached the firm, his impact was felt. He mentored quite a few paralegals, supervised a number of lawyers who have all developed their skills, and many of them still continue to work at the firm, paying tribute to the dedication and training offered to them by their partner, Mr. Justice Brooks. I should also add that I am advised that when the firm had to make that paradigm shift into technology from the old typewriter system to have new computers, etc., Mr. Brooks, as he then was, had leadership responsibility, and I have no doubt had to drag the firm kicking and screaming into modern technology. And for that, we are all grateful. You would have heard that he made his mark, not just in litigation, but in probate and conveyancing and estates, and acquired a lot of experience that would have stood him in good stead for the judiciary. In one area where he may have shown some questionable judgment is that he was my attorney in a matter. I was one of a small group of attorneys who retained Patrick Brooks to represent us in a matter. And typical of the then attorney, he was measured, calm, prepared, and confident, and achieved the results for what was a very sensitive an important case for his clients. I should add his clients stayed within their boundaries, only provided instructions, and let Mr. Brooks carry out his legal role as counsel, which he did effectively and successfully for his clients. And as an indication of his kindness and compassion, I do not recall him charging any fees. And it's too late. I have appeared as counsel before Justice Brooks, both in the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal, with mixed results. But time will not allow me to elaborate on that, except to say that he had and continues up until this day to show a meticulous attention to detail, an effort to ensure that the principles of law are applied in a fair and equitable way. No doubt with his vast experience garnered from working in the DPP, JPS, and Nunes Schofield, that vast experience brings him to ensure that the law is applied not in an abstract way to facts to produce a mechanical result, but you need to be fair, to do justice, and to be respectful of the law. And that has always been an important hallmark in applying the law and making decisions of Justice Brooks. I would like to also thank him for his service as a lawyer, as a judge, and as a partner of the firm. You have made your mark in many areas. And as has been said before, in retirement, you have the opportunity to reflect, decide what course of action you will take in your new life, and I'm sure the country will continue to benefit from your vast experience and skills beyond St. Peter and Paul's Church, where you're a dedicated usher, and I'm told a very talented singer. All the best going forward, my Lord, and congratulations on a sterling, dedicated, and successful career.
Thank you so much, King's Counsel. You see, the judiciary snatched him from Nunes, so we had to give Nunes a little more bite of our proceedings. So, of course, we thank the head of chambers for that stirring tribute to Justice Brooks. But we couldn't do it without hearing from Mr. Maurice Manning, King's Counsel, because he actually worked with Justice Brooks. So Mr. Foster is on hearsay, but Mr. Manning will bring it. We'll give it much more weight.
I'm not so sure about that, my lady, but I'll do my best. May it so please you, my lords, my lady, and I believe all protocols observed. I first met Mr. Justice Brooks, then Patrick Anthony Brooks, in December of 1996. I was then on the last, perhaps month or so, at my former chambers at Gifford, Horton and Thompson, then Gifford, Horton and Thompson. And we had a matrimonial proceeding matter in which Mr. Justice Brooks acted for the wife who was asserting, who had considerable resources in the relationship and was asserting an 80% take of shared property. And of course, I was contending for more than the 20% that he was prepared to give. So when I hear today us talking about fairness, I remind myself that sometimes the instructions might go in a different direction. Thankfully, the learned judge in chambers determined that 50-50 was a fair split. And again, thankfully, Mr. Justice, then Patrick Anthony Brooks did not seek to appeal what was obviously a just ruling. But when I joined the firm in 1997, just a few months after that experience, I came to learn about the breadth of Mr. Brooks's experience at the criminal and the civil bar. That's not something that is often found. It was clear that he was a go-to in our firm, a go-to resource. Himself and the late Donovan Jackson, they were encyclopedias in the firm. And I can only imagine that our loss at Nunes Schofield was in fact the nation's gain. Mr. Justice Brooks, the difficulty with my speaking now so far down the batting lineup, since you are a cricket man, sir, is that everything that needs to be said has been said, or almost everything. But let me assure everyone that you have heard nothing but the truth, the whole truth today. That Patrick Anthony Brooks, with that stern countenance that he's given even now, belies the sense of humor, belies an impish mischievousness as well, if I dare say so, a certain grace and patience that he has for young counsel. He has been a mentor for many within the firm. You've heard some of the names Madam President called, Camille Busby Earl, Catherine Minto, just to name a few, several counsel who have sat at his feet and learned tremendously from him. The countenance that I speak of, that sternness, one of my colleagues, and I'll call her name, Sherry-Ann McGregor, has indicated to me that he could be a general in the army. And so my lady, Miss Justice Phillips, is correct in saying that that sort of demeanor that he carries, the bearing, it is in his walk, it is in the cadence in how he speaks, in everything about him. And in fact, I thought about the class of 79 and the late Captain Beswick from that class, a man of courage as well, a military man. And I thought it may well be that because Captain Beswick was already down that path, why you didn't also go down that path, sir. But let me assure you, the discipline he brought to his work, he brought in all facets of his life. He brings it even into his exercise routine. I have been there at 5, 6 in the mornings and seen a certain person walking. Well, actually, the person sees me first and hails me. And then I realized, oh, that's Mr. Justice Brooks. He's moving so fast that by the time I'm able to wave and say hi, he's gone. And in fact, I know it was a source of concern for his family because he has prevailed, he has sat on many notorious criminal matters. And Mr. Justice Brooks hasn't allowed that fact to faze him or to stop him from getting in his daily walks when he needed to. So what I would close, Madam President, is to say this, that we are thankful that this dedicated family man who has his wife of 35 years here, Winsome, his children, Natalie and Nicholas, thank you for loaning him to us. Dedicated family man, dedicated churchman, dedicated man with a conscience, a judicial conscience, who has brought it in all areas of his life. I don't expect him to be idle in retirement. In fact, it is now that the nation really needs someone with his skills and competencies to continue to share what you have. As what a friend of mine says, is an RHB, that remarkable human being that you are. I thank you, sir. I wish you all the very best in your retirement. And in fact, as usual, I wish you a very, very happy birthday. May it so please you, my lords, my ladies.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. I can see why he told me about you. You have made him seem so nice. Sides of him we didn't even know. But one thing I must say before the next speaker, this one will tell us more because we want to hear some more juicy gossips. And he's coming from, knowing him from the law school, and this one brings to mind the adage, show me a friend and I'll tell you who you are. So now we call upon Mr. Gordon Robinson of council. We give you the mic, Mr. Rob. Thank you.
Oh, green means on. Okay. May it please the court, I apologize. Since the technology has gone beyond the rotary dial phone, I've been struggling with it. Thanks to the president, the firm did not. Oops. Oh, no, it's all right. It's all right. No, it's a medical problem. I first met the president, I don't know if he recalls, when we were teenagers, not law school, when his close friend and neighbor on Munster Road, who has become a bit of a celebrity under his published nickname, The Beast, brought him as a guest to a party that was being co-hosted at my home by myself, Gene Autry, and The Beast. Gene didn't have his Wild West nickname yet, but literary license and all of that. So we sussed him out and decided he wasn't a bad fellow for a George's boy. The next time we met was in Barbados, when he had spent the interim period productively working, studying at the Faculty of Arts, while I had wasted my time at the racetrack. Some things never change. We were together, law faculty and law school. And then again, we were together at NSD for many years. And this is what I discovered, that there are 4 words in the English language that epitomize your president. The first one is integrity. He has a complete and inflexible integrity that passeth all understanding. The second one is discipline. I've never met a human being with more self-discipline than your president. Never. So integrity and discipline are his ID. And it is those 2 words that caused him at NSD to keep us on the straight and narrow, to ensure that not $1 went astray. Not one. And he held us to an ethical standard that made the General Legal Counsel's canons look like playground rules for children. The 2 more words that apply, and those 2 words are diligence and thoroughness. Those are the things that your president brought to every single task that he took on. Diligence and thoroughness. There was going to be no unforced errors. Yes, things could go sideways, not his fault. Not because he didn't apply himself, didn't do the work, didn't spend the time, didn't apply himself. So he took those 4 words, from law faculty to law school, to the public bar, to the private bar, and then to the bench, where it was inevitable that they would take him to the very top. But all of those things were grounded in a very deep spiritual commitment that ensured that he knew that this was how he had to be, this was who he really was, and kept him on that path. I just hope that his legacy is studied by every single young lawyer and applied going forward, because we are frankly in danger of losing sight of the importance of those 4 words: integrity, discipline, diligence, and thoroughness, grounded in spirituality. Thank you, my friend, and my learned friend, for all that you have given to us and to Jamaica. And I know there's more to come. May it please the court.
Thank you on his behalf, Mr. Robinson, and on the court's behalf. That was somehow eye-opening, and I was hoping to get a little more, but we don't have time. But we know that he treasures your friendship. Now we will get into the presentations from the various the law bodies. And again, I will take the liberty to establish my own protocol here. And I'll call upon Mr. Leonard Green, Senior Counsel, President of the Advocates Association.
May it please you, Chief Justice, President, distinguished judges, and all gathered here. It is my pleasure to represent the Advocates Association of Jamaica and to bring a word of gratitude to Justice Brooks. He did provide, I think it was 72 pages of a recent judgment for which the advocates are thankful. Those of you who may have thought that he was always brief, not true. The judgment he wrote in what could be simplified as the Virgo case. I'm sure you remember that, Justice Brooks. It was only a few days ago that it was online. I managed to pursue the judgment, and I note that you had made a ruling that the right of the child to wear her hair in that particular style had been breached. And so the advocates have said to me, thank Justice Brooks for that ruling. I know you had to deal with the question of infestation and lice in hair and all of that. And I am only sorry you didn't contact me before you had written the judgment. Because now I know that you're a singer, and you would have heard of a famous songwriter, Jacob Miller, who sang a certain song. I don't know if you recall it, Justice Brooks. Stop, spread propaganda upon the dread, because the dread no have no 40 leg in him head. So maybe you could have incorporated that in your judgment. And I would like to say, Justice Brooks, that, and to all gathered here, that I knew Justice Brooks first when we were at Kville campus, and I was only recalling now that it was mentioned that you were in fact a footballer on our team. And I say our team. I remember you as a defender. I guess I'm correct in putting you in that position. And you were not a bad footballer. And it becomes even more interesting because as Justice Brooks became a younger lawyer then, we met again at karate classes. Nobody knew. Madam Justice MacDonald Bishop, you're surprised? Justice Brooks is a karateka. And we trained together. And I suspect, if my recollection is correct, that he also obtained his black belt. So any of the male judges who may have had in mind to sort of challenge Justice Brooks, please be warned. So your illustrious career is one that we are pleased of. Justice Brooks, you have been an exemplary human being. And for that, I take the opportunity to congratulate you. And I am indeed pleased to have had the opportunity to say these brief words of congratulations to you. And wish to you and your family all the best in all your future endeavors. May it please you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Green. I was just reflecting that, like the poor, you're always with us, more than everybody else. So
Yes.
we thank you so much for always heeding our call and to give your good words, well wishes to Justice Brooks. Mr. Malik Kellier, he's representing the president of the Jamaican Bar Association in his position as vice president.
As the protocol has already been established, good morning. I first must apologize on behalf of our president, Mr. Kevin Powell, for his unavoidable absence this morning, but he has sent his best wishes to his lordship, and my lord, he has prepared his tribute with my creative edits. Might it please you. Today we gather to honor a remarkable jurist, the Honorable Mr. Justice Patrick Brooks, Order of Jamaica, Commander Class in the Order of Distinction, as he retires from his esteemed position as the 12th President of the Court of Appeal. This is a momentous occasion both for the wider legal fraternity and for all of us who have been privileged to witness his dedication, integrity, and unwavering commitment to the legal profession. Justice Brooks has had a distinguished career first as a member of the public bar, the private bar, and later on the bench, where his tenure has been characterized by fairness, an appreciation of the finer legal points, and an undoubted gentlemanly demeanor. His judgments as a judge of the Supreme Court and later as a judge of appeal have influenced the legal landscape in Jamaica and, I dare say, the Commonwealth Caribbean region. The members of the Jamaican Bar Association have had the distinct privilege of witnessing Justice Brooks's exceptional ability to navigate complex legal issues with clarity and precision. His judgments have been marked by their thoroughness, insight, and a deep understanding of the nuances of the law. As a leader, he has steadily guided the Court of Appeal through the perilous COVID-19 pandemic, oh, too soon to be forgotten. 3 years ago, we watched and beamed with pride as you assumed the role of president, but also foreshadowed the future of this court, whilst facilitating its seamless transition. From your acceptance speech at King's House, and I quote, open quote, whoever my successor, she may be, close quote. He has earned the respect and admiration of his colleagues who sit with him and the legal practitioners who appear before him, especially young counsel, and who have come to appreciate his keen sense of wit and humor. Do not let his often serious demeanor belie his appreciation for the camaraderie between bench and bar. Justice Brooks's contributions extend beyond the courtroom. He has been a mentor, a guide, and his contributions on the Rules Committee and the Advisory Board of the Court of Appeal, Court Administrative Division, my apologies, and a presenter at the Jamaican Bar Association's continuing legal education seminars reflects only a small part of his evident dedication to the legal profession. As we bid farewell to Justice Brooks in his capacity as President of the Court of Appeal, we do so, sir, with a deep sense of gratitude and admiration. Your legacy will continue to inspire and guide us as we strive to uphold the principles of justice and fairness that you have embodied. To you, Justice Brooks, as you embark on this new chapter of your life, on behalf of the Jamaican Bar Association, we wish you all the very best. May your retirement be filled with joy, peace, and fulfillment. Your contributions to the legal profession and to our wider nation will never be forgotten. We thank you for your exemplary service. Congratulations, happy retirement, and most importantly, a very happy birthday. Might it so please you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kellier. I could pick up what you edited, you know. Oh, so soon forgotten. and beaming with smile. Am I correct?
That is so, my lady.
Thank you. In his typical style, spirited, well said. Thank you so much. And thanks to Mr. Powell. We're moving along. I'll call upon Mr. Jordan, representing the Northern Jamaican Law Society, and I'm calling on you because we're expecting Mr. Hemmings to be on Zoom, so we are just dealing with those persons who are here with us in person at this time. Thank you so much.
Indeed, my lady. All protocols previously established, observed. Good morning, one and all. I am indeed humbled and honored to be present before you this morning, bringing a word from the Northern Jamaica Law Society. That being said, it is extremely beneficial, I would say, speaking after so many distinguished speakers, from the Honorable Chief Justice all the way to the previous speaker, Mr. Kelly. So there isn't much that has not already been said about Justice Brooks. There is not much that I can add, but I will try my best. You have had an almost, well, a flawless 45-year, almost 45-year distinguished legal career. You have embodied excellence at every step of the journey. And if I'm honest in my tribute to you today, I would just accept everything that has already been said about you. You have taught and inspired many, and I want to express to you my personal thanks for being a part of that committee that developed the criminal bench book, which I consider my Bible. I never undertake a criminal matter without perusing it, to ensure that I am in order with the recommendations and suggestions which have been put forward therein. So I want to thank you for that. If I were to describe Justice Brooks, who have appeared before, mostly in the Court of Appeal, in 2 words, I would say that he is quiet and firm. It would be remiss of me if I didn't communicate a personal message from the President of the Northern Jamaican Law Society, Ms. Pearline Bailey, who has asked me to insert in this tribute to you her own description of you as no fuss, no cuss. She underlines that your style was solid and strong. Your elevation to the Court of Appeal has led to a marked improvement in the disposal of matters. Your time, though short, has been productive. You have presided during one of the most challenging periods of the court, that being the COVID system. And you have caused us to almost have a seamless transition. Before I go, I just want to give one personal experience about Justice Brooks. I don't know if he remembers, but it was during the height of the COVID pandemic when we were appearing via Zoom. And for previous court matters, I had always, appeared from where I was, be it in the motor vehicle or wherever. And I remember this particular time, I had a matter before the Court of Appeal. and I made the mistake of appearing from my car. And as soon as I came on, it's like, Counsel, where are you? Where are you appearing from? This is the Court of Appeal. I'm going to allow you to get to somewhere safe and reappear. So I had to exit the platform, go to my office, and reappear. That is the measure of the man. The speakers before would have spoken about his integrity, his dedication, and his discipline. But that for me is a summary of the experience that I would have had with Justice Brooks. Justice Brooks, I want to wish you enjoyment in retirement. I wish for you good health and happiness on this, the other part of your journey. I salute you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jordan and Ms. Bailey. I just had to say to my colleagues to my left that you seem to be throwing words at the female judges of the court. No fuss, no cuss, but we will adopt those attributes going forward. While Mr. Hemmings prepares to come, I'll just say one thing, that we praise Justice Brooks for his patience and tolerance, having to lead a court with so many females. Not an easy road. I intend to retire as soon as I'm sworn in. Thank you. Mr. Hemmings is the president of the Cornwall Bar Association. It's a pleasure having him here with us on Zoom.
Thank you for having me, lady. All protocols observed. As we gather here to celebrate the successful tenure of the Honorable Justice Brooks, outgoing president of the Court of Appeal, one can say he was a great steward of the office, a vanguard for justice, and a custodian for our rule of law for our second highest court of the land. I did a quick search of our Supreme Court website last evening and typed in the name, the Honorable Justice Brooks. 14 pages popped up with an average of 5 judgments per page. 14 times 5, that equals 70 sound written judgments.
Mr. Hemmings, on Mr. Brooks' behalf and on my own behalf, I would not be human not to acknowledge your support of me and your strong endorsement of me, to the extent that when I checked if AI is hallucinating, as somebody suggested, I see where AI, based on your recommendation, said that I'm the first female to be appointed to the Court of Appeal when I was never at all appointed. But I thank you so much, and I'm sure Justice Sykes will be bringing you on to the Supreme Court bench soon, or some at the Court of Appeal, because you are a stickler for statistics, and you will fit nicely in that culture. And we thank you wholeheartedly. I am here twiddling my thumb because we're almost at the end, and we're now going to call upon Mr. Nicholas Brooks, the son of our president, to speak on behalf of the family, and now we are going to hear things that we would want to hear.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Judge, Mr. President, Chief Justice, all the dignitaries, family, friends, and guests all. Good morning. I have the distinct privilege this morning of giving tribute to the President, the Honorable Mr. Justice Patrick Brooks. But before he was the Honorable Justice, he was simply Daddy. I speak today on behalf of my mother, Winsome, my sister, Natalie, and the entire family when I say how proud we all are of what you've accomplished in your long career on both sides of the bench. As we looked forward with anticipation to this day, we reflected on the many moments that led here. An early memory that Natalie and I recalled was the moment when, upon receiving the call to assume the position on the Supreme Court in 2002, you took each of us aside and wanted to discuss what it would mean to our family and what sacrifices it would involve. And you wanted to get our blessing before putting on the robe. You mentioned those sacrifices and the changes that would come with your new role, but what we remember most was you expressing that this was a lifelong dream for you and how excited you were to accept the calling. I recall being a bit apprehensive about the change, having spent so much of my childhood running around the halls of Nuna, Schofield, Dillion & Co., and having carved out a little office for myself in the break room. And I was skeptical about the career move of being a puny judge. But looking back now, I can say definitively that you made the right decision. And I hope that you are proud of how you've progressed, first with your appointment to the Court of Appeal, and finally with your appointment to the presidency of the court. It is no fluke that you have excelled in your career the way that you have. You've always modeled for us the importance of hard work and dedication in your life, just as your father and your mother modeled for you through their lives and their work. I know your colleagues at all stages of your career, as we've heard today, can speak to the impact of that hard work on your professional life. But for every late night spent completing a judgment, or every week spent out of town to a circuit court appointment, there were corresponding appearances at school drop-offs and pickups, karate tournaments, ballet recitals. I even recall one evening during one of my karate classes where the sensei called you in to help with sparring, and you eagerly set down your reading material to hop in. After the fact, you may have regretted being there for that one. Natalie shared a similar memory of you sitting outside of her ballet classes with your ever-present stack of reading, but always attentive enough to later provide reminders of the teacher's feedback from class. I do hope you know the mark that you left and how we never took that for granted, or that you knew how much it meant when, as I was leading my final Key Club event at Campion, I looked up surprised to see you in the audience after you had managed somehow to make it back into town on a Friday evening through traffic after being away for the week at Circuit Court. We never had any reason to doubt that for you, it was always family first. Finally, I would be remiss if I didn't mention, as I'm sure that you will, what an important part faith has played in your life. Your involvement in the church and your dedication to a life of service and charity has no doubt shaped your jurisprudence just as much as it has your home life. I know that that commitment to service will continue to drive you as you contemplate what comes next. You haven't shared yet what this next chapter will hold for you, but as anyone who knows you can attest, I'm sure you will certainly have some new projects lined up to keep you busy very soon. And I know that Mommy and all of the rest of us will be along with you to support you on whatever path you choose. And of course, you have an exciting and challenging new role to play as well, Grandpa. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to join me in thanking Mr. Justice Patrick Brooks for his service and congratulating him on his long and distinguished career. Congratulations, Daddy.
Thank you so much, Nicholas. I know he would have given the human side to the soldier here, and we really appreciate it. One thing I was listening for, though, was to say that you were sad that there would be a drop in the pocket. Financially. I thought you were going to say that. My children would. But that sounded so nice and crisp and sharp and humane. Just like Daddy. But one thing that struck me before I pass over to the real president now, is that he gives blood. And to give blood means you're giving life to others. And we thought that his contribution was just about giving us his books and sharing his knowledge of the law. But I think the most profound thing that I've learned today about him, not the karate, although that's interesting, but that he continually and continuously and willingly gives his blood. What a man. What a father. What a jurist. And more than anything else, what a faithful husband of 35 years. Winsome, I'll have to crown you. And now, the reply, the moment we have been waiting for, is here. I now call upon the Honorable Mr. Justice Patrick Brooks, Order of Jamaica, Commander, the Order of Distinction, and our beloved President of the Court of Appeal of Jamaica.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Judge of Appeal, soon to have a different capacity. Honorable Chief Justice, Mr. Justice Brian Sykes, Honorable Mr. Justice Seymour Panton, past President of the Court of Appeal, I think the presiding judge mentioned that the Honorable Mrs. Justice Zayla McCalla, past Chief Justice, would be on the Zoom platform, and I certainly salute her. The rest of the protocol being expressed, I only need to say to my colleagues, judges of the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court, presiding and retired. Good morning all. Ladies and gentlemen, family. My feeling this morning is one of an overwhelming sense of thanksgiving, not least of which among the several tributes it is said at that time will obliterate some facts and blur them. And I've heard a little bit of blurring this morning. But I wish to say thanks very much. The citation from His Excellency the Governor General was certainly an unexpected surprise. And I thank him very much for it. I thank God for his enduring grace and blessing on my life, having allowed me to reach the age of 70 in good health of mind and body. My journey in the law has not only progressed the way it has because of the help of others. The list is too long to mention everyone, and it is almost axiomatic that once some names are called, then there is a risk of causing offense to other people. However, I have to run the risk, for I feel a great sense of gratitude to all who have helped to shape my career. There are two ladies who are at the foundation of that career. The first is Miss Madge Barrett, who then worked at the Ministry of Home Affairs. I'm sure a lot of you don't know there was a Ministry of Home Affairs. But in 1972, there was a Ministry of Home Affairs under which justice fell. And she gave me my first job at the Sutton Street Court as an assistant clerk. That opportunity confirmed for me that what I wanted to pursue as a career was law. The other lady is Mrs. Irene Walter, the then registrar of the Mona campus of the University of the West Indies, who gave me invaluable advice and assistance in approaching my academic pursuit of a bachelor's degree in law. I was able to pursue that goal through the government of Jamaica, which assisted in two significant ways. The first was the benefit of a fully paid tuition through what was then called free education. And the second, a scholarship from the Public Service Commission. The 5 years of study were pleasant years, with good friends throughout, two of whom, from day one at Cave Hill to the last day at Norman Manley Law School, were Robert Bloomfield and Norman Harrison, both of blessed memory. Having utilized the opportunities Miss Barrett and Mrs. Walter afforded me, I joined the world of work. I was bonded to the government, and as a result of the scholarship that I had received. But that service to the government proved to be also a blessing, for I had the opportunity to meet and make friends with some of the finest people that I know, and quickly gained experience that it would have taken me far longer if I had gone on my own or joined private chambers. These were attorneys at law and staff who worked at the Sutton Street Court, Gun Court, Manchester Parish Resident Magistrates Court, and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. Some of the magistrates from whom I learned the most at that time were Mr. Jeffrey Ramsey and Miss Elise Francis, who were the judges of the Manchester Resident Magistrates Court, where I spent most of my year as a clerk of courts. My mentors in those early days of my career in the profession, especially at the DPP, included, as you have heard, Mr. Howard Cook, now the Honorable Mr. Justice retired Howard Cook, Miss Velma Hilton, later Queen's Counsel, now deceased, Mrs. Zelia Holness, as she then was, later Chief Justice Mrs. Zelia McCalla, Mr. Kent Pantry, later King's Counsel, and Mr. Lloyd Hibbert, now the Honorable retired Mr. Justice Lloyd Hibbert. They were among my leaders in cases representing the Crown. I was also privileged to appear against some of the best advocates in the profession at that time. The famed Frank Phipps, Queen's Counsel, and Mr. Ian Ramsey, because he had already given up the Queen's Counsel position. Mr. Howard Hamilton, later Queen's Counsel, and the other exceptional counsel from, I think it's number 53, Church Street, where Mr. Ramsey had his chambers. In my career, I was privileged to work with two people who embodied a rare combination of brilliance, humility, and humanity. The first of them I met in my relatively short stint in the corporate world. At the Jamaica Public Service Company Limited, I was privileged to work with Mr. Maurice Burke, a former Solicitor General of Jamaica. He and Mr. George Wilson, the company secretary, taught me the ropes of being a legal officer in a large company. Mr. Burke had many stories from his long career. One of the principles of practice that he taught me was lawyers don't charge other lawyers for acting for them. His words were colorful. He said, "Dog don't eat dog." When I went into private practice with a firm, I learned how the principle worked in practice. And one of the guys in terms of teaching me the art of charging fees sits over there, Mr. Gordon Robinson. My stint at JPS was as short as it was because one morning I had a chance encounter with a former classmate, Mr. Jeffrey Mordecai. He asked me if I was interested in joining a private firm, and long story short, I ended up at Nunez, Schofield, Dillon, and co-partners, which was to be my pleasurable professional birth for over 16 years, from 1986 to 2002. It became my home away from home. And Nicholas has mentioned that my children are also there running around in the corridors, and Nicholas had his name written out and put up on one of the doors. That was his office. It was a fairly small firm at the time that I joined. I was the only associate, and I think there were 6 partners. But they treated me well, and I learned from everyone: partners, secretaries, and ancillary workers. All shared stories, experiences, and expertise. I learned civil advocacy from Mr. Gordon Robinson. I learned conveyancing, succession, corporate law from the other seasoned practitioners who made up that firm, especially Mr. Trevor Dillon and Mr. Jeffrey Mordecai. As a partner of that firm, I had the privilege to be part of the strategies to grow the firm in size and stature. Some of the attorneys at law whom we attracted at that time and who have since made an enormous impact on the profession, as they did on the firm, are Mr. Lowell Morgan, who is now the managing partner of the firm, Mr. Maurice Manning, who spoke earlier, and his recollection of that case is far different from mine. My recollection was that I was soundly beaten. And when he came to join the firm a few months later, I was happy that he was on our side. Mr. Reverend David Henry, Mr. Manning, of course, was since been appointed King's Counsel, and we congratulate him for that. And now, Mr. David Henry, now the Reverend David Henry, who joined the firm. Again, I had a similar experience just prior to him joining the firm. He was then at the Attorney General's chambers, and I lost to him. But He came to the firm and we became friends and colleagues. Other people who were and still are especially dear to me, Mrs. Camille Busby Earl and Miss Catherine Minto, both of council, and who were associates that I had to work closely with. Mrs. Marlene Guscott, secretary in the firm, Mrs. Hazel Anderson Cuff, our treasurer, Mr. Anthony Bentley, now Bishop Anthony Bentley, and the recently deceased Miss Sandra Risden. If only by dint of the length of time that I was at the firm, my Nunes Schofield de Leon days are undoubtedly my best years in the practice of law. I not only practiced law, but honed my skills in managing a computer network as computers, personal computers, came into vogue just about the time that I was there. As much as I enjoyed my time at Nunes Schofield and Co., I wanted to fulfill a dream of being a judge, and the Judicial Service Commission took a chance with me. I took on the job of Judge of the Supreme Court with some anxiety, but I received support from more experienced judges, and they helped me to find my footing. There was no one who didn't provide support, but I must especially mention the Honorable Miss Gloria Smith, Miss Justice Gloria Smith, now retired, whom I regularly had an early morning chat with before workday started, and the Honorable Mr. Justice Horace Marsh, now deceased, to whom I often went for advice and guidance on matters on which I felt uncertain. After a stint of acting here, I had misgivings about coming to the Court of Appeal, but with the encouragement of the two people who would be my greatest friends and support in this court, the Honorable Mr. Justice Dennis Morrison and the Honorable Miss Justice Hilary Phillips, I applied for the post of Judge of Appeal. President Panton and the Judicial Service Commission again took a chance with me. As I mentioned, the Honorable Mr. Justice Morrison, he is the second person who embodied the rare combination of brilliance, intellect, and humility and humanity about which I spoke, although I think he was unrivaled in that regard. President Panton was a great source of support during the time that he was in the position, and even since he has left the post, he has been my confidant in terms of the way in which I should go about the operation of the court. He has been a great support in that regard. Coming to the Court of Appeal was one of the best career decisions that I have made. The court has been a most pleasurable place in which to work. The volume and intensity of the work are enormous, but the family-like atmosphere, the camaraderie, and the warmth make it a joy to come to work every day. Every judge with whom I have worked here, past and present, has been a blessing to me. Apart from a WhatsApp group that we share, we also share genuine love and respect for each other. The mid-morning coffee break, which we missed today, is a rambunctious gathering with bantering and sharing being a big element of the event. And they help to make us into a cohesive court. In short words, we get along. Undoubtedly, we have disagreements from time to time, but there is little acrimony, and right relations are soon resumed. As good as the atmosphere was before, the advent of the Judicial Strategic Plan for improving the judiciary, introduced by the Chief Justice, has made the Court of Appeal an even more cohesive unit. Staff members of all levels, led by the Honourable Mr. Justice David Fraser and the Honourable Mrs. Justice Nicole Foster Pusey, worked together on committees and projects and participated in office socials and functions. The Court's Social Affairs Committee must be singled out for keeping things lively and happy with its various initiatives for getting the staff involved. So we have things like Tie Day and International Happy Day, and everybody gets involved. There are some individuals that I worked more closely with, apart from the judges, in carrying out my tasks, who made those tasks more bearable and effective. The first is the Registrar of the Court, Mrs. Stacey Ann Brown, who has been a tower of strength for the court for the years that she has been here. She has worked with 5 presidents and was a guide and confidant to me in respect of the intricacies of the post. And I wish to say thank you very much, Mrs. Brown, Madam Registrar. The other people with whom I worked closely were my Executive Secretary, the loyal Mrs. Verna McGaw, my Judicial Counsel, Mrs. Rochelle McCallum, who, in editing my draft judgments, has saved me from embarrassment over and over again. My close protection officer, Corporal Jeffrey Wilson, who goes above and beyond the call of duty more times than I can mention. I have truly enjoyed working in this court. As president of the court, I receive the love and support of the entire Court of Appeal team. Everyone strives for excellence. We had the support of the Honorable Chief Justice, who graced our functions despite his busy schedule. He would come, make speeches, and share with meals with us. We also got the support of the Ministry of Justice for capital and infrastructure works, and the present Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Grace Ann Stewart McFarlane, has been a great help in this regard, in addition to the Minister. The Court Advisory Division, headed by Mrs. Tricia Cameron Anglin, has also been a tower of support for the court, and that is for the more immediate needs. I recently had to apologize to Mrs. Cameron Anglin for being so miserable in pushing for the things that the court needed, and I think she's thinking about forgiving me. I cannot close without giving honor and gratitude to my family, which has supported me through my entire career. Even when the move to the bench seemed somewhat daunting for, as Nicholas mentioned earlier, for my children. My late parents, Oswald and Carmen Brooks, taught me all the values that I would need in my journey in the working world. My brothers, Howard and Christopher, are the kindest, most supportive people I know, and my late brother Peter was an inspiration in his passion for our alma mater, St. George's College. Aunts, uncles, and cousins have also been strong support throughout my life. My wife, Winsome, has been the epitome of support. She almost invariably checks every morning as I am going through the door to make sure that I am taking with me what I am supposed to be taking. Invariably, if she is not there, I leave something. Our offspring, Natalie and Nicholas, have brought us much pride and joy in seeing them mature into productive, well-grounded adults. Natalie, now Mrs. Green, and her husband, Kevin, have brought Winsome and me even more joy as we revel in their son and our grandson, Benjamin. Thanks for all the kind sentiments that have been expressed this morning. I'm going to only correct one. I never played in intercampus games. I did play defense for the law school team at Norman Manley Law School in the league on Bona campus. So somehow the Chinese telephone got it wrong. And I have two things left to say. The first is I want to say thanks to the Chief Justice and the team that made up the last negotiating team for the judges. The Chief Justice, Justice Vivian Harris, Justice Shelley Williams, Justice Jackson Hazley have made the move into retirement far less a bit of anxiety than it previously was. The groan that you have heard is because we have not yet had the benefit of having the indexing. And I hope that the Chief Justice will succeed because I know he continues to press for it. And finally, I want to say thanks to the friendship of my sister to my left, the Honorable Miss Justice Marva MacDonald Bishop, the soon to be appointed President of the Court of Appeal. You will have the honor, Madam, of being the first female President of the Court of Appeal appointed in that post and not acting. The appointment will be well deserved. All the very best for your new role, this path that you will take, you will have the benefit of knowing this team, knowing the way they work. It is an easy team to lead. Everyone wants to do well, and they want to see the court progress. A little bit of advice, a gentle hand works best. Thanks again to you all for the very kind words and for coming out to support, and all the best wishes that you have extended to me this morning. Thanks again.
Here. My sister to my, I presided without crying. That's an accomplishment. Thank you very much. President Brooks left this last sentence I don't like to go with what? Gentle hands. That's all I have. That's all I have. I'll get gentle. And you will be my confidant and Justice. Who's the youngest one again? Justice Panther. It leaves me to say, to thank you all for gracing us with your presence. The occasion would not have been so special had you not been here. And we are I speak on behalf of my colleagues and the court. We are deeply grateful for your indulgence. We kept you long, and because I'm so kind with gentle hands, I hope we can invite you to some refreshments shortly. We'll just get back the money from the Minister of Justice. So it leaves me to say, before I thank everybody who has been a part of this, that having heard all the accolades, I had to go to AI to satisfy the Chief Justice that I'm into artificial intelligence. And I punched in, what descriptive words can I use to describe a good judge? They gave me 20, so I won't list those. But what AI did was to give me some phrases that describe a good judge, and the jury will now retire after these. A pillar of justice, a champion of fairness, a guardian of the law, a seeker of truth, a voice of reason, a voice of reason with these women at the Court of Appeal, a beacon of integrity, a paragon of wisdom, a defender of rights, a champion of justice. Note that these words and phrases are meant to describe a judge who exemplifies the highest standards of judicial excellence and integrity. I adopt all these words and phrases to describe my dear brother, friend, and mentor, the Honorable Mr. Justice Patrick Brooks. He epitomizes every single one of these phrases. So, it leaves me to thank all those who have made this day possible, led by me, of course, so I thank myself. And I thank God for giving us the wisdom and the strength and the energy and the courage, above all else, to face the world, to say goodbye to a dear brother. I'm not going to cry, because Bob Marley said, no woman, no cry. So I'm not going to cry. But I thank Madam Registrar, of course, who is like the wind beneath our wings with everything. Mr. Adriel Williams, the Deputy Registrar, of course, Justice, not in the order of precedence, because my protocol is a bit different, but just all the members of the special sitting committee, including Justice Fraser, the scribes who assisted with the that long tribute. I was not a part of it, had nothing to do with it this time. Justice says Fraser, Brown, Lang, and Justice Frank Williams, of course, all men wrote that tribute. That is why it's so long. Constable Martin, without you, I don't know what we would have done. He prepared and produced those recording. Mr. Martin, you're the one who caused it to be that long, I'm told. So we thank you very much for that video production of the president. We thank the Chief Justice again for gracing us with his presence, because he's in the circuit court in St. Mary, and it's not easy to be here at this time. And anybody whose name I haven't called, I haven't forgotten you, but I don't have time. I thank you wholeheartedly for being here and being such a good audience, although I didn't get an opportunity to cut some of those tributes. But once again, and before I leave, I have to play the part of the lay preacher that I am. And today is Justice Brooks' birthday. And I say to you, the Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children. May his presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He's with you. He's with you. In the morning, in the evening, in your coming and your going, in your weeping and rejoicing, he's for you. He's for you. The words of one of my favorite songs, The Blessing. I give you thanks, everyone. Now we may adjourn after the typical Baptist benediction.
Madam Acting President of the Court of Appeal, the Honorable Madam Justice Marva MacDonald Bishop, Judges of the Court of Appeal,